better of us tonight. Camera not working at all. Been sitting there for a long time trying to get that bad boy to work, and it was not working at all for me. The mic was working fine, but not the camera. So here we are back again live on Buckeyes Battle Cry. Um, yeah, the show will definitely be improved moving forward, but unfortunately tonight we're taking a step back. But yeah, we wanted to obviously talk about the Big Ten media days and all that was entailed in that. I wanted to show a video of Deshaun Foster that was going to definitely enhance the broadcast. If you have not seen that by chance, go watch Sean Foster's introductory press conference for a first year head coach. It was laughable and really bad. But before we get into anything else, man, how's the week been? What you been up to? Uh, Shoot, football season right around the corner, man.
Yeah. The week's been good. Haven't been up to much, just enjoying the time I have left off for summer vacation. It just seems
Sure.
like it's gone by pretty quick. So, just going to enjoy the time that I have left.
These summers never stop flying and never stop moving, man. It's kind of ridiculous. Like they always just fly by, man. It's not fair because it's the best season in Michigan, or at least one of them. I prefer fall overall, just with colors and the leaves and whatnot. But yeah, summer always flies without fail. So it's gonna be interesting. But yeah, man, we Big Ten Media Day started on Monday. They concluded today. Michigan and Oregon headlined today. Obviously, we're welcoming the new teams to the conference: the Huskies, the Ducks, the Trojans, and the Bruins. A lot more fanfare for some of them, not so much for UCLA in terms of what they've been in this 21st century. It used to be a powerhouse in the 90s under with Foster, their new head coach at running back. But they have not been a force since the year 2001, and it's kind of insane how much they've fallen off. But yeah, I want to get started with Denzel Burke's quote. He is a corner who is not like most. He's very soft spoken. He's very quiet. He's a very reserved individual, but he was anything but that at Big Ten Media Days this week. Denzel Burke brought the most inflammatory quotes to Media Days on Monday when it was Ohio State's day. And yeah, it really is, man. I'm sorry, guys, but um, yeah, Denzel really brought the heat. He said, backing up his quote they made in February about winning the Natty, he said, "I ain't come back for no BS. We're here to win the Natty. We're here to take things into our own hands and get things done this year." What do you think that does to a program or to a team when your teammate, who, especially one who's reserved and not usually outspoken, is talking like that?
I mean, first off, if you think he's arrogant, you got to look at his position. Cornerbacks have to be the most confident. They have to be the most confident in the game.
Yeah,
Especially if he's planning to play in the pros. But I
certainly.
think he's just speaking what everyone else is in that locker room is hopefully thinking. This is a big year. This squad is known as the Avengers. They came back for one more season to beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, and win the national championship.
Certainly.
I think he's just stating that, like, hey, like, I think the BS has to do with that everybody else is all the doubts, all the, you know,
And
not
naysayers.
going to get it done, all the, the soft, you know,
Sure.
we don't have a good culture. Like, I think he's just voicing the how his teammates are more than likely feeling as well. So I think that, that did it put some pressure on? Yeah, but the dude's just making a statement. He's confident in his team. He's confident in the type of players that are going to be on the field this season. From what I heard, Ryan Day at Big Ten Media Day, it's possibly the best that they've ever had in a while, ever since he's been there.
Yeah, without question, man. And it brings to mind now, obviously, every year at Ohio State, there are national title expectations with the kind of roster we've had in this century. There just are expectations, and with the kind of team that Ryan Day has pieced together. Um, but no Ohio State player since Mike Doss has come out in the offseason and declared what the intentions are. National title. Sick of the losing, sick of the narrative. Now, there is a slight difference between obviously Doss's claim back in 2002 and Denzel Burke's claim now in this offseason. You know, Ohio State had gone 6-6 and consecutive seasons, and then hired a new coach, Jim Tressel. They did beat Michigan in 2001, but it was a culture that had really fallen apart at that point, and a program that had fallen apart in the latter years of John Cooper, and they were sick of the losing. Now, Ohio State has not fallen off under Ryan Day in any means. They've taken perhaps a step back from Meyer, but not in the recruiting landscape, not in culture, not in anything else. They've just lost to Michigan multiple times now, and they're sick of hearing that narrative. And so I feel like this is really driving those Ohio State players forward in this offseason, not only for their own honor and what they want their own legacy to be, but for their in defense of who Ryan Day is and how much love they have for Ryan Day as a man, as a person, and a coach.
Yeah. I mean, I what I'm mainly look. I mean, you can talk all you want. You could talk anybody's gonna talk up their team. It's just facts. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I want to see that talk proven in the play on the field. So
Oh, without question. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I hear your point, Man City says, I have faith in the talent. I just can't see them winning under Ryan Day. You have to win one before I can call it preseason. He was a great recruiter, but a professional choker. Yikes, shots fired.
man, uh,
Well, we have to think that you have to keep in mind that everybody was saying this about Harbaugh. Everybody was saying this about Kirby before he got over the hump. Everybody, until you win one, that's what the narrative is going to continue to be.
I mean,
Georgia
let
and Kirby couldn't get past Alabama for all the years they played. In fact, they've only beat them once since Kirby's been there, and so you know there's that obviously Saban's removed now and Harbaugh's removed now, so the biggest obstacles are removed, and so we'll see how things move going forward. He definitely has a lot to prove this season, and it took Harbaugh 9 years. Day's in year 6 as a brand new head coach. Harbaugh had 30 years experience before Day ever was a head coach. So
yeah.
he's still a young coach learning, and he's got a lot to prove and a lot to improve on.
I really, let's talk more about you know the Kirby Smart Ryan Day comparison because I do see comparison in a way where Ryan Day is so close to taking the next step, just like Kirby Smart did.
Sure.
So, by what year did Kirby Smart join? Start coaching Georgia,
I think it's
2016.
16, right?
Yeah, 2016. Very next season, he had them in the national championship picture. But who was in the way? Alabama. 2018, they made it to the SEC championship. Who got in the way? Alabama.
Yep.
2019, made to the SEC championship game. Who got in the way? Well, you know what? That's probably one of the most talented college football teams in LSU that you'll ever see. And then 2020, I'm pretty didn't Alabama get in the way again?
Yep.
And then 2021 look like, oh my gosh, it's going to happen again. Kirby Smart loses to Alabama in the SEC championship game, but they finally got the redemption. They got over the hump against the Crimson Tide of the national championship. Let's
Yeah.
look at Ryan Day now. There has been, yes, he's a young coach. He's lost to more talented teams, but he's so close to getting over that hump, and he's over the years. I mean, just like Kirby Smart, one team has gotten in his way. That's Michigan. So, I mean, I see the comparisons. If Ryan Day ever, finds his groove, as being able to coach in those high pressure situations. Because again, Peter, like you said, he's young. He's getting through the bumps in the road. But I mean, watch out if he gets over the hump and learns how to rely on his staff, be able to deal with big pressure moments and call the right shots.
Two
'Cause
things I want
they definitely do have the talent to be something special. We're waiting on Ryan Day to now make that next step, and
to
I
deliver.
by his remarks at Big Ten Media Day on how he's saying he trusts Chip Kelly with his life and he's definitely gonna pass on the play calling, that is a big step in the right direction.
It's an interesting shift because, as we talked about on this Buckeyes Battle Cry Live before, Kelly is probably the only one that he would relinquish control to. I know Gene Smith had a lot of talking to him in the last year and a half about relinquishing control. He tried to do it with Brian Hartline, and he grabbed that control back because he's a micromanager. But Kelly is his mentor. Kelly is someone he, like you said, he trusts with his life. He is full on CEO coach for the first time ever. He was definitely a control freak for sure. And we're gonna see if he fully relinquishes control in this upcoming season. Now here's my fear. Um, say Ohio State somehow loses to Michigan in the shoe again for a fourth straight year, and say that is the catalyst to get Ryan Day fired. I think he is a good enough coach that in the future he will win a national title somewhere else. If it's not at Ohio State, if he loses to Michigan a fourth time this year and gets fired by Ross Bjork, he is obviously a talented enough recruiter. He learns from his lessons, and he will get more experience, and he will go from a big program to another big program. So now I'm hoping none of that happens. I want him to win here at Ohio State. Like that's the first and foremost primary goal. They have it within their sights this season to get it done. But let's just say, for whatever reason, he doesn't. I have no question and no doubt that he will win a national title for another program.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's young. He's got a lot of years left under his belt. He's still living it. I mean, he's still learning
Yep.
to, possibly one day channel his inner Nick Saban. I don't know, but wait, what? I don't think they will fire him even with another Michigan loss. Going on consistently isn't something a bad coach does. Yeah, but the Rand City. This is Columbus, Ohio. We're talking about. They
This is a
just
pressure cooker like
it's
no
it's
other.
it's it's definitely a pressure cooker. I mean, coaches have gotten fired for less. But
Yep.
oh my
It's
gosh, but
interesting because I mean,
it's not the first time that this has happened though.
no, it's not. And it wouldn't be the first time if somebody gets fired just for losing to one specific program, the arch rival. But I saw a stat on Instagram. Ryan Day literally has the best winning percentage of any active head coach in the country right now. Of anybody. Nobody has a higher winning percentage. Nobody. Not Kirby, not Dabo, not obviously not DeBoer. Freaking Ryan Day is number one. That would be to outsiders. That's like, why in the world would you fire him? But to Buckeye fans, it's like, dude, you are not performing in the biggest game, a game in this century we've been accustomed to winning now.
So far,
It
they haven't won one against Michigan this decade. Let's be honest.
no, yep. Logic can kind of go outside of the phantom that exists between Ohio State and Michigan. You know, but at the same time, I would caution Ohio State's new athletic director to have the patience because it clearly paid off for Kirby and it clearly paid off for the Wolverines, unfortunately. Harbaugh was nowhere near winning the national championship in the first 6 seasons of his coaching regime. 2016, you can argue that, of course, with the double overtime win for the Buckeyes, but every other year, not even close to making the playoffs. And so it's really interesting to consider. Patience is a great virtue and a great lesson for programs, but at programs like Ohio State, it runs pretty thin when you lose that game over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, Rent City, you do make a good point. One coach is in the SEC, the other coach is in the Big Ten. So I mean, like one conference is. Let's be honest, the SEC is a lot tougher than the Big Ten. I
It's
mean, I'm not,
deeper. It's
it's
thicker.
it's a
I'm
lot
not gonna deny
deep.
that.
Yeah.
I won't deny that. That's for sure. We're certainly in the tougher division of the two. Obviously, now there's no divisions, but going forward, it's going to be interesting because the unbalanced schedules that we see are really going to start affecting team seasons. I mean, Michigan has a much more challenging schedule than Ohio State does this year, and Penn State has the easiest schedule of them all. Um, for the big boys in the conference, that is. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But yeah, I have some theories on Penn State this season, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. Now, Jack Sawyer, I did want to talk about for a second as well. Jack Sawyer, the senior defensive end out of Pickerington, Ohio, the Columbus native. He he came to Ohio State when we were on an 8-game winning streak versus the Wolverines in the playoffs every other season, if not every year. He was used to that. And in his tenure to Ohio State, he's only been in the playoffs once, has not won a Big Ten championship. And he was kind of asked about what it means to put on the scarlet and gray and what it means to play for Coach Day in the Buckeyes. He's a guy that gets the rivalry. He's a senior guy that is working his freaking tail off to get this victory because he doesn't want his legacy to end the way it's gone for 3 years consecutively now. All his friends, all his family are Buckeye fans. He grew up a Buckeye fan. He knows what's at stake here. All the past players have shoved it on these players' faces and told them, "You guys are letting us down." And they get that. He gets that. And so you address that at media days. And I love getting guys that grew up Buckeyes. It's so important to get guys from SoCal, to get somebody from Florida, from Texas, from Georgia. The national landscape is critical if you're going to be a national contender. That's obvious. Like in this day and age, there's no question you have to branch out and get the talent from all over the place. But me personally, I love these guys that get the rivalry and that put in their all in the weight room in the off season because they love the Buckeyes. Um, One point, this is a little bit of slander, and you might disagree with me here on this, Rob. In fact, I'm pretty sure you will. Um, One thing that stood out, and I haven't addressed this in any live, I don't even think I've mentioned this to you at all. Marvin Harrison is a beloved Buckeye. He is. He is a legend for the Buckeyes. But there were two plays, and they're both interceptions in the Michigan game, where he could have put his body on the line to break up the passes. He decided to opt for cautiousness and his preserving his body for the NFL. And that made me think a little less of Marv. That made me think his head is already at the next level and thinking about the next level, not the next step. Because he definitely could have either, tackled or batted down that first horrific throw by Kyle McCord. And certainly the second one, had he dove, it wouldn't have been a Rod Moore interception. But he didn't dive. He did a little half fall down and didn't choose to interrupt where that pass was going. So although he performed well for the Buckeyes, it pains me a little bit. His legacy, that's what I'm always going to remember Marv for, unfortunately, is not laying it on the line against our biggest rival. And
I mean,
that's painful to me. Like that's gonna be my lasting memory of him because he didn't play the bowl game
yeah, I mean, like if you look at the season before, he he probably knew that he was gonna get taken out trying to catch that ball that
in the
Stroud
Georgia
lofted into the back of the end zone.
in the Georgia game.
He knew he was exposed and he's pretty much a sitting duck at that point.
Right,
So, and I mean, he put his for that moment, he put his body on the line. I know for guarantee you, he wasn't sitting there thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be a free catch. They're not even gonna know it." Like, no, like
right.
eventually someone's gonna come get you. But I mean, yeah, so the first play
Mhm. My
against
first drive.
Michigan, the first interception, he could have put his body out there. Um,
You could put more
and
effort in the play for sure.
the second one, yeah, he pretty he could have. I do agree with those points. He could have put his body out there more. And it made me so mad when Roman Wilson pretty much called him
I
soft,
know. Oh,
and
I know, right?
I was just like, but I hate to admit it. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not soft.
No.
I mean, I just wish he would have put his body out there more for the team, for the game.
Especially because it's you have an undefeated season on the line. You have everything in front of you still to play for and still to gain. And granted, he had 118 yards and a touchdown in that game. He got his victories over Will Johnson, just like Will Johnson got the victories over him. I'm not going to question his toughness because I don't think that's an issue. I just think at that point in the season, he had he had kind of checked out mentally and was starting to think about the next level and what that meant for him. And I don't blame him for sitting out the bowl game. And the season at that point, the season was over, and
Eh,
there were no more goals to attain. So I don't blame him for that one bit. But anyway, just kind of a side tangent there in the sense of what getting guys that are all in and bought in for the program for Ohio State and not thinking about the next level or even the current level with the NIL deals that they can get. Like it's interesting because you're seeing college athletes now driving around Lambos and Ferraris and Maseratis and the like. And I hadn't thought about this until I read a comment on I don't know if it's a YouTube video or a one of the blogs that I read regularly, but people are saying, I wonder if players are gonna start thinking about NIL deals and falling through if they get injured and playing to a point not to get injured, playing for the money. Do contracts get removed if you're not playing anymore? And it's really an interesting outlook. I don't know if that's going to affect games or not, or players' mentalities or not. I really think it depends on the individual. I think some will, some it won't. Some are locked in, some are competitive to the nth degree, and it won't affect them in the slightest bit.
I mean that.
But you have to think that there are going to be players out there across the country. I'm not saying just at Ohio State or any any specific program that are playing for that bag and have come just for that bag. So especially in Miami, what I'm talking about specifically. But it's an interesting thought. So I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, uh, and what you think about NIL, how it affects individual players' mindsets and approach to games.
I mean, I think it's already affected individual mindsets. I mean, you have all these, top ranked players who usually commit to teams that
Sure.
actually, win national championships, have winning seasons. But you have these top players, committing to, the teams we talked about: Miami, Texas A&M,
Yeah.
Florida. They especially Miami. It's mind boggling
Specifically,
how. Actually, no, it's not mind-boggling.
it's
Miami has
not.
have like a 30. They have. I'm pretty sure they have a 30 million a year NIL evaluation. So I mean, to me, it's not mind-boggling how they pull in these players. It's mind-boggling to see that these players rather not get developed or go out and win. It's all about the bag now. So I think it's
Yeah.
already influenced players' decisions. But if we're talking about the chance that injuries could affect players' NIL deal, they're gonna
Mhm.
be asking for guaranteed money in those deals.
Yeah, insurance and the contracts for sure, without question. There's no doubt about
Yeah,
it,
I
man.
mean, if there's talk about if I mean, there's gonna be like a lot of clauses in those NIL deals if there's talk about holdout for injuries, you know, I mean, so if they decide to, gosh, what was it? What was I gonna say? I think holding, gosh, I mean, even like holding out on a bowl game or,
Sure.
gosh, let's say that. I mean, another clause could be because players could leave year for year. There could be a clause then an NIL deal is like, hey, you have to stay so many years in order to, you know, get some of your money.
Right. That's an idea my dad proposed, and something he thought they should be. I don't agree with this theory all the way, but he thought maybe they should be at the end of the year or at the end of their time at Ohio State. But we're going to see unions form at some point. There's no question about it, and that's going to drastically affect how players are paid when they're paid. Man City chimes in again. He says NIL shouldn't go over the cost of tuition. If you have NIL deals, you shouldn't get a scholarship. Give it to someone who needs it. There you
Or
go.
better yet, I actually propose this. Let's take those who want to make money in college and put them in
Mhm.
a type of a G League type of deal, and
Sure.
have
Oh, yeah.
those who actually, wanna, go to school, like be on scholarship, but do it the traditional way, then have them be on scholarship.
I think that would be probably the best. It would definitely damage college football as it's damaged college
I mean,
basketball,
if
as we talked
Peter,
about. But
if you look at it, there are you know what? If you look at college baseball, and this is a good
Mhm,
example, if you look at college
mhm.
baseball, people are worried about, talent.
Yeah,
Like, I was looking through the 2024 MLB draft. There's a lot of talent that goes straight from high school to the pros. We never get to see them in college, but you know what?
yeah,
We
exactly.
forget about that because there's still a good amount of talent left. So
Sure.
I mean, that's just the thing, like, yeah, all that would mean, like, all the talented players go to, this G League type of thing, but then the best next talented players step up.
Yeah. No, I mean that's a good point. That's a fair counterpoint because it is accurate in those leagues. And it's accurate in college, although if we're completely honest, in college basketball, I mean Duke and the Kansas and Kentucky's and North Carolina still get the elite of the elite. But over the last 10, 15 years, the talent pool has really diluted and made college basketball almost unwatchable. Um, but anyway, getting back on point, um, that is an interesting
Well,
point, and we're gonna see some things happen, and the landscape is always shifting.
Rant
Don't
can I just
Yeah,
so Rancidity, I think the idea of them, they technically they have to be on scholarship in order to, be considered a part of the school
at the university,
at
yeah.
the university, or else, you definitely wouldn't be eligible to play. So I just you in a way, you're right, but it's just regulations, you know?
Well, it's gonna be fascinating how they break it down because the Title IX plays a massive role, and the questions I've seen directed at athletic directors this week at Big Ten Media Days, they're almost in wait and see mode themselves. They've got an idea, but it's not concrete, nothing solidified, and the other sports are just kind of in wait and see mode right now. Now, obviously, we care the most about college football more than any other sport. That's just who we are as fans. But Ohio State has the biggest athletic department in the nation, 36 varsity sports. Nobody has that. Nobody else has that many in the country, anywhere. And it won't be around much longer because the money is too centrist, centered and focused on the main two sports of basketball and football. And so we're going to see sports disappear. It's just kind of a sad reality, but it's coming down the tracks. And so we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they will stick around. But um, it's going to be fascinating to follow. These next, we're already in the wild, wild west. And it ain't going to get any crazier. I think, or it's not going to get any under more control. I feel like the football choice is the main choice, and the other sports are just living with what football does. No, I mean obviously, yeah, football carries every athletic department around the country. It's just the way it is.
I don't like it depends on the school. I mean, if you look at Kentucky, yeah, they have a football team, but they're actually a basketball school. Yeah, if you look at Duke, they have a football team, but they're actually basketball schools. I mean, same as Louisville and Kansas, and you know,
Yeah, you're not wrong, but TV contracts far outweigh even ticket sales, and
yeah,
so even though those are underperforming schools, it's all split revenue, and they make inconceivably more in football, even at schools like Kentucky and Duke and North Carolina. So no, you do make a valid point though. I mean, because obviously those fan bases do care way more about basketball than football, and there's obviously schools where baseball or softball or hockey is king, But yeah, it's
right.
fascinating to think about. But
All right, so back to Big Ten Media Days. So,
yes,
Peter,
sir.
I I finally was able to watch Ryan Day's media comments. You know, he gave a speech and everything. He did a lot better than the UCLA coach.
Whew.
But basically what he I mean, he had some good things to say about Emeka Buka, saying, he's been here to play since day one. He's a workout warrior.
Yep.
He's always ready to come to play in the field. He also talked about Jaden Ballard needing him to step up, and that he's an extreme deep threat route. Uh,
Burner.
yeah, he took the words right out of my mouth. Basically, a burner. So he's like, "Yeah, we definitely need JB to step up." And he did say stuff about Bryson Rogers, because they talked about like the next line of
Yeah.
wide receivers.
Yeah.
So he's
Koto
basically,
Antwi too.
yeah. He said Brandon Ennis is, you're gonna
Yep.
see a lot for him this season. I mean, I think he's not going to talk about the obvious receivers like the J.J. Smith, Carnell Tate,
Sure.
and Emeka Buka. He
Right.
just, they were just more talking about the depth of the receiver and what the other receivers have to offer.
Easy.
More past the 3-4 spot.
Yes,
So,
sir.
one thing he was asked a question about the offensive line,
Yeah.
and basically he was saying, Seth and Luke, you know, actually no, I think it's Carson Hinsman.
Carson Hintzman, the center. Yep.
Yeah, it said they're basically rotating from center to, like, they could each take snaps at center and or guard. So he said that Josh Fryer has made big improvements, big gains in terms of development. He did talk about, just the line being more in shape, but, that's to remain to be seen. He said, we would see more come next week when, practices are actually open
Yes,
in
sir.
the first week of August. So
Yeah.
we should try to go we should try to go down there.
Fall practice right around the corner. They got open practices for $50 if you Buckeye fans want to go, and it's kind of interesting to think about. But yeah, no, reading between the lines, I saw his press conference too, and specifically about the center position between Hinsman and McLaughlin. I felt like reading between the lines and reading his words, it seemed to me like McLaughlin is still struggling with the snap, and that he might find his home being at right guard instead of at center.
Yeah. I mean,
Did you
what
get
I
that sense?
Yeah, I mean, what I was thinking when he said, like, pretty much hinted that he's getting more, he can play center or guard, but we have him at guard. He's got a fresh start at Ohio State, and I think he should get a new position. I mean, I don't like. I think that, and no knocks to him, but I
Sure.
think that he had his time at center. I just think
Right.
it's time for a fresh start.
I
So
agree, man. It's a mental thing, I think, at this point, too, for him at center. We don't want him. We're breaking in a new quarterback for the Buckeyes anyway, and we can't have these low snaps that McClaw was feeding to Milrow last season, and so I think we're gonna see McLaughlin at guard, and we're gonna see Carlos Hinsman at center. I think all might be forgiven from the leakings to Buckeye Scoop allegedly what the information he gave before the bowl game. I think all is forgiven in that regard, and I think what we're gonna see is Josh Simmons at left tackle. He's there all last season. Donovan Jackson at left guard. He was there all last season. Um, and I think you'll see Hinsman at center, McLaughlin at right guard, and probably Fryer at right tackle. He was headache inducing at times for the Buckeyes at right tackle, but another year of experience, another off season to get better and get in better shape, like you said. He can only get better. I mean, who you going to put in Tegris Shabola, who's never started a game in his life? I'd rather have an experienced guy, even if he's not an elite talent, than an inexperienced guy who's never started.
Yeah, but it's gonna be. I hope it's gonna be interesting to see. I mean, to hear about what happens that first week of open practice, because I remember last season what we heard about the O line. They
Goodness,
look confused. They're not running down the field to
they're scary.
block. It's just that's a very scary thing, especially like when it comes to to the O line. I mean, I'm pretty sure like it's just general principle to know that even though like the running back is past the line of scrimmage, you got to run downfield and throw
Right, get to the
blocks
second
to
level.
get to the second level. So, but
Yeah, that was terrifying to read about
yeah,
that last year.
but yeah, he also added. I mean, that's the big thing. I was waiting for questions was the O line because I know that's going to
Oh
be
yeah,
the biggest concern. He didn't say much about Simmons, the
right. I
the
think that's
San
just
Diego
because he's
State
he's locked
transfer.
in as starter. You know.
Yeah, same as he didn't say much about Donovan Jackson.
Right. I think those two are for sure locked in as starters. You can address that question if you want to, Rob.
So I rated Oregon as the number one team to possibly upset Ohio State. Right now, I have it
Yeah.
as I'm, you know what, I got there, I have it at a 55% rate likely of being upset. It's
Okay.
in the middle of the season. You're shaking out all the kinks and the offense and defense.
Our
More
first
than likely,
actual test of the
yeah,
season.
more than likely those teams are going to be running like fine-tuned machines,
Yeah.
just obliterating everybody in their path, and they're definitely going to be going to war. But it's in Eugene. That's a tough environment to win in. Dan Lanning are is going to remember last season where he didn't beat the teams that he needed to be.
Yeah.
It's more than likely going to be in his head that hey, you know what, I had to beat Washington. I had a chance to beat Washington twice last season and get Oregon to the college football playoff. I blew it. It cost them, and it seems like
Sure.
a no more type of mentality. So they're definitely going to have a chip on their shoulder, and the Buckeyes are definitely going to be having a target on their back. So it can 55. You know what? No, I put it at 60% chance that Ohio State is going to lose that game.
Interesting. Okay. Well, it's very clearly the media was asked at Big Ten Media Day who's going to be in the Big Ten championship game, and I know there's a slightly different topic, but every single media member on Big Ten Network said it's Ohio State, Oregon. Nobody deviated from that, and so also keep in mind that Dan Lanning in his 2 years at Oregon is 0-3 versus his biggest rival, so he's in the same boat kind of that Ryan Day is in. You know, he's got a lot to prove this season. He's never beaten his biggest rival. And so that to me speaks a little bit like he's now they were close, of course, both times last year, but they couldn't close the deal. And so my thought is that Oregon has the best chance to beat us of any team on our schedule during the regular season.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, we can't overlook Penn State. That is in Happy Valley.
yeah, yeah. It's a 3 game schedule in Eugene, at Happy Valley, and in Columbus versus the Wolverines. Um, but specifically with the Oregon game, I still, this is just my personal belief. I still believe their defensive line is not equipped to handle Big Ten offensive lines yet. And their schedule is insane. Insane. They did not get the welcome mat to the Big Ten Conference, that's for sure. So they are fighting a very uphill battle to make the Big Ten championship game. I think they have every right to be getting the media attention that they are getting, but their schedule does them no favors. And we'll see how things shake out at the end. But as you mentioned in your video earlier this week, Rob, 21 of the 27 media members that were polled have Ohio State winning the Big Ten championship. The other six were Oregon. Penn State didn't get a mention despite their joke of a schedule. Let's be honest, very very easy schedule outside of Ohio State. They
Yeah.
don't play Oregon or Michigan. Um,
Kind of off topic a bit, but it still has to do with the Big Ten. You know who has somewhat of a tough stretch in the Big Ten?
who's that?
Michigan State. They have like a tough 4 game stretch. I think it's yeah, I mean
Yeah,
they're pretty much run it's Oregon, USC, Ohio State, Michigan.
yeah, they have a 4 game stretch in there. That's gonna be murder's row.
Yeah, pretty much. I put them down for 4 losses. Like
Uh,
those are going to be 4 losses. So
I think Jonathan Smith is in for a very tough first year. That roster is so depleted. I could see them going 3-9 this season, but we'll see how it actually shakes out. I'd have to get a closer look at their schedule. But yeah, they got a tough road ahead. But yeah, man, what do you think about this? Is obviously funny for us, but the 3-time defending Big Ten champions didn't get a single vote for a spot in the championship game. What are your thoughts on that? And obviously they lost so much and and staff and roster.
you know, I mean, I may be a Buckeye fan, but you got at the end of the day, you have to give leeway to the defending national champions,
Yeah,
Michigan Wolverines. Their defense is going to keep them in a lot
I
of
mean that's
games. It's going to be like Will Graham, Kenneth Grant, you know,
yeah,
Will
Mason Graham. Yep.
Johnson.
Yep.
You got Josiah Stewart. He's
Josiah Stewart at the end.
looking really good. God, who else is
I
there?
mean, those are the main players.
You have
The
Hauserman.
linebackers, Houseman and Barham.
Hausman. Yeah. So I mean, like I'm surprised they did not get a better look. I mean, at least like 1 or 2 votes, but I know for sure that Sharon Moore is going to be he's going to be taking receipts. He's going to be coming back if they do the unthinkable. No one has them winning the Big Ten championship except their own fans.
Exactly. You better believe they're going to play that disrespect card to a T
Oh
and
yeah,
put that on the
definitely.
bulletin board. You telling me the 3-time defending champions, national champs defending, didn't get a single vote? Oh, that's going to motivate the heck out of college athletes. Now I'm not going to say it's going to motivate them enough to win the Big Ten championship, but it's going to definitely drive them in this offseason. That I'm sure that pisses them off. Um, I did, I did want to mention Sharon just in general. That boy knows how to dress. I don't know if you saw his suit and his fit and everything today. He looks sharp as a mug. He looked really sharp.
Yeah,
He was the best dresser of any coach
he looks sharp.
in at media days. The brother knows how to dress well, and something I always noticed in this offseason, I started paying more attention. Obviously, he done more interviews and things like that. The Joel Klatt interview in the Fox Big Noon Kickoff. He is a very charismatic individual, and he's a very confident individual, and so that's going to be interesting because I think that does play well with recruits. It's just it's going to come down to results. It always comes down to results, and if you can't keep the results train going, it's going to crumble. You might have a good class or two, in that range that we've been talking about, 10 to 15. But if you're not sustaining it with wins and backing them with results, it's going to crumble automatically, without time. And so we'll see how they do, man. I'm anxious to see how the season gets started, man. And Um, I know you'll laugh at me for saying this, but I've been doing a little scouting on Fresno State, and Fresno State's coming off back-to-back 9-win seasons. Now they have an interim coach that took over last year and finished their season on 4-game win streak. They return a quarterback who passed for a lot of yards in the Mountain West Conference last year. They're not going to beat Michigan, but I definitely would say with who they return, I forget how many returning starters they have. I think it's 17, but they return a very talented, experienced team. It's not going to be a cakewalk the first week of the year, and then it's not going to be a week off like Ohio State has for Akron. I did want, um, I did want to talk about that game just real quickly. I got a trivia question for you, Rob.
All right.
Akron has been one of the worst teams in the nation the last 5 years. I looked this up earlier and I was flabbergasted at this. Guess how many total wins in the last 5 seasons the Akron Zips have combined to get?
The last 5 seasons.
5 combined seasons. How many wins?
I'm gonna say the ceiling is 5 and the floor is 2.
You actually get a little harsher than I would have expected, but they only accumulated 7 wins over the last 5 football
Oh man,
seasons.
I was
They were
close.
0-12 in 19. They got 1 win in 2020 and 2 wins the last 3 seasons each. And so Ohio State
That
has a tough time to sell tickets to that game. So guess what they did?
what do they do?
Archie Griffin is dotting the I at the Akron Ohio State game. He is going to get the honor of of dotting the I for the Ohio State Buckeyes in Script, Ohio, and it's going to be quite the honor and quite the fascination. Only a couple of people have done that. Um, Woody Hayes, Earl Bruce, and John Glenn, the astronaut and U.S. senator, and a few other individuals have had that honor. But even with all the hype that Ohio State has for this coming season, I've heard they sold the most season tickets in 15 years. Yeah, that's more than 2015 even.
Yeah, that's wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty crazy.
it's pretty
Uh,
remarkable. But
Dude, kind
they
kind
had.
of off topic. I just saw an ad where they were putting out RFK Jr. as a progressive Democrat.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Wow,
I'm pretty sure
that's
I'm pretty sure he's in the middle. So, but okay.
yeah, I would say so too. Yeah, so no, it is kind of interesting how they're trying to market that first game of the year. It's going to be the first game of the year on CBS for the Buckeyes. I don't know if Ohio State's maybe back in the 70s or 80s they got on CBS, but this will be the first time
Man,
in a long
no more
time.
Peacock or Netflix. We're not scheduled to be on there. Dude,
It's
I'm sorry. I would be so livid if we had a game scheduled on Peacock
I
or
think it's almost certain to happen this season, but we'll see. Maybe it won't be.
like I mean
I mean,
I have those, but still like that just to me that's nonsense. I mean no one's I don't even agree with, the NFL games for Christmas being put on there.
I know it's ridiculous, man. That people have, yeah, yeah, it's insane, man. It really irritates me, but we'll see how that goes this season. But yeah, what do you think about um Deshaun Foster's press conference? He got on the mic. He had months to prepare, and he said he fumbled around for a few words, and then he said UCLA. We're in LA, and yeah, USC's
Uh,
there
it sounds
too.
like it sounds like a guy who, I mean, maybe he's not good at public speaking or someone who just doesn't
Sure.
want to be there. So, but I mean, some people are just not ready for that moment. I don't know. Maybe, he's just it's his warm up lap, and he's gonna get a year under his belt, and then we're gonna see him at Big Time Media again. He's gonna knock out of the park, or
Be all
maybe
polished.
he just doesn't want to be there. I mean, did was he like more of a interim hire promoted to head coach, or was he an actual hire?
Well, he was on the staff, and he was one of the most elite apparently one of the most elite running back coaches in the nation under Chip Kelly. But when they went and hired Kelly from UCLA, he was the guy they promoted to head coach, and so he was on the staff. Obviously, a legend player for them. He had an illustrious NFL career, was phenomenal both at
Wait, does
UCLA and
Sean
in the
Foster?
NFL.
Wait, does Sean Foster, as in like the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he was a monster and on the field, and so you'd think he would have some kind of media experience and not be a deer in headlights, in the first. But maybe the way the moment got to him, you know, I'm I'm not gonna rip into him too hard, but admittedly, it was a really, really bad first impression on a national stage, and I didn't realize it, but I mean, this was yesterday, and it was all over the country on sports talk radio. His introductory press conference, what I heard from comment sections, and so that's a little embarrassing when this is your first introduction to who you are and who the program is and what the program is,
I mean, like he.
especially when you played there and you couldn't name one single thing about your program except that it's in LA.
Yeah, I mean, he basically stated what the people already knew. So I.
It
I
was
don't know.
bad.
Honestly, like I don't know. Like at first, when I had to get up in crowds and speak, like
Sure,
I fumbled and froze, and I remember I even like shook a bit. Like my people were saying, "Ah, we thought you were about to have a stroke," type of
sure,
thing.
sure.
So that dude was doing a lot better than I would have done.
To
So
his credit, he answered the questions really well. That he fielded those questions really well. It just seemed like he kind of went up there without a script or without anything to say. So, to his credit, he recovered really well. But obviously,
yeah,
that's not going to be what's covered in the national news or national spotlight.
nah.
Um, and so we'll obviously get a feel for who he is and what he is if he lasts, a couple years in the league and as years go on. But we'll see how that is. But moving on to the the Michigan Wolverines today, they had their chance at the podium as we mentioned, obviously with Sharon Moore. Donovan Edwards has stepped into the spotlight as supposedly the next star. Now Blake Corum, he was an every down back and he was a stud and a player I respected greatly. Now don't get it twisted. I think Edwards is a great human being. I think he's a great man. I think he's a very good representative of his respective university. But there's been so much hype because of what he did in 2 games, despite only having 400 yards, less than 400 yards rushing last season. Donovan Edwards to me is not a guy that breaks any tackles. He goes down at first contact every single time. If there's not a gaping huge hole, he is not a guy that's going to take you very far. He isn't, in my opinion, he is not an every down back. He has not proved that in college. He was exposed in the TCU game as they got back, down early. They couldn't rely on him, and they had to go to the passing game. Um, he has terrible vision from everything I've seen. I'm a guy that watches every Ohio State game. I don't think he has the body or the talent. Now he's an elite athlete, but I don't think he is a skilled enough, well-rounded enough running back to be an every down back. And I personally see Kalel Mullings being RB1 by midseason. Now Edwards was on the video game. He got all the hype off season for what he did in the Washington game and what he did versus Ohio State in 2022. But what do you think about that? I don't see him being an every down back, 20-25 carries a game type back.
I mean, word is that he had a great off season.
Sure,
He put on some weight. He was in the weight room a lot. I mean, I pretty sure I think they said he's faster. But let's see what happens still when he doesn't get those giant holes that you can drive a truck through, and he has to
right.
actually like fight for yardage. Because what I remember seeing is the runs that he had, there was no one at the second level. The hole was wide open, and it was just a straightaway to the end zone. Now
Sure.
I remember that TCU game, the playoff
Yeah.
game, where he had one long run, and then he pretty much didn't do anything after that. You know,
Right.
he was the main featured back, and what happens when he's the main featured back is he's not very productive as an every down back. He'll
Sure.
you let him in the game in third down situations, and he'll
Right.
either give you what you need for the first down, or he'll break a long one. But I mean, if you look at him as his times as a starter, the featured back, he's only getting like what, like 1 yard a carry, two
The
yards.
Illinois game specifically in 2022, when Corum went down, when he went down with his injury in 2022, everybody just expected to be ho hum because he had the same offensive line as Corum had, and he didn't do a daggone thing versus the Illini.
Yeah, I mean, my high school coach always told me that, you know, if you're getting like if you're getting 3 to 5 yards on first, if you're getting 3 to 5 yards on first down, then that's a good play. I mean,
Setting the offense.
1 to 2 yards to carry just does not cut it.
Especially, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, and especially when they don't have the quarterback in J.J. McCarthy to bail them out in third down so many times like they did this past season. J.J. McCarthy was so good on third down; it was disgusting to me. And they've got Orgy now, and I don't see them or Tuttle or Davis Warren. We'll see who end up winning the battle. But specifically with Edwards, man, he's a great receiving back. He's a great electric talent. He's not an every down back. He just isn't. And so, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. I'll happily eat crow on that. Not happily because he's a rival player, of course. But my opinion is pretty firm and pretty set on this. I think Khalil Mullins will be RB1 by midseason, and Edwards will continue to be that gadget player that he's been throughout his career and tenure at Michigan. Now, some will say, "Hey, he won a national title, so whatever. His legacy's set in stone," and they have a point to a certain extent. But I don't think he's a type of guy that can sustain um, RB1 throughout the tenure of a season, throughout the length of a season. So we'll see, man. But those are my thoughts on Donovan. Now, likable guy, just not RB1 material.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I yeah, time will tell, but from what I've seen, I agree on this. Uh, so I mean, I know Michigan fans are hyped about him about, you know, two
Yeah,
runs, but they were hyped about 2 runs before, and
yeah,
he didn't do much after when he was the main back. So
right.
I think that, you know, he will get drafted in a team.
Oh yeah,
He'll be his skill set will be displayed in the pros as, you know, someone who catches the ball out of the backfield type of deal, but he'll
yeah.
never be an every down back.
Right. I think he is honestly more suited for the NFL than he is for college, if that makes sense, because he is such a great athlete. He's just not a good running back, if you ask me. And
Yeah.
so he will be used, and I think he'll have a somewhat successful career in the NFL too. But
You know, people bring up his like, oh, he was a great high school recruit. Let's be honest, you guys. Like, you know, born and raised in Michigan, no knock against it, but Michigan isn't exactly, you know, a big football factory. If you lay out the landscape of, you know, other states, and you put the number of pro athletes that have been drafted from who originally went to high school in the state of Georgia, in the state I was thinking about Georgia because they're the highest in the state of in Michigan.
yeah.
um you know, we're it's not that much compared to like Georgia, Florida, you know,
Oh no,
California,
Texas.
Texas, Ohio.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yep.
Michigan isn't exactly known as, you know, a football factory. So
It's never been. It's never been known that.
I think like once in every like 5 years or so, there's a player that is, you know, top five, top 10 in the in the recruiting ranking. So
Usually out of Detroit,
yeah,
but we'll see. That's just always the way the talent pool has been in Michigan. It's been few and far between. It's not been at the level that the other states you mentioned. So we'll see. I do want to throw this other kind of question to you out of the blue here. maybe you don't have an answer prepared, but if you were to pick a dark horse for the Big Ten Conference, um, I'm not saying a team that'll make the Big Ten championship game, but a team that will exceed expectations this year, coming out of Big Ten Media Days, entering fall practice, who would that team be for you? You give one, and I'll give one. Maybe
Wisconsin.
the same. The Badgers, you're thinking. This is
Yeah.
the year they break out.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I got to look at their schedule more, and I got to look at. But again, I've said it before. I said it again. Luke
Yeah.
Fickle teams start. What is this? His second year, third year?
This will be his third season, yeah.
His third season. Usually, season 3 or 4. You really
Yeah.
see.
You
You
know,
really start to see the fruition of Luke Fickle team. So
you're not wrong. I could see that definitely happening. Their schedule is somewhat light. I think they do get Michigan, however, so that'll be a fascinating battle to watch. And that's later in the season. I would say you're probably not far off in Wisconsin. Um, I would have to go with it's between two teams that'll step their level up. It's between the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I think with their schedule and with the talent that they're bringing back, they have the potential to get to 8 wins this season. I might even dare and say 9. And then Nebraska, I see them stepping up somewhere in that 7 to 9 range as well. I don't see them taking a huge step with a true freshman quarterback in Dylan Raiola, but they are getting better on Matt Rule, and he's a guy that improves programs quickly, and I trust him as a coach. And so I think they will. I don't. They will improve. They'll be in that 7 to 9 range as well this season, and so we'll see what the Huskers come with. What you got?
oh no, not just saying. So
Oh, okay.
so you think Nebraska and you said another team?
Rutgers.
Ruck. Wow, Rutgers
Yeah,
really.
the Rutgers has steadily improved the last 2 seasons under Schiano, and I legitimately think they have a chance at 8 or 9 wins this season. I know that's a bold and almost ridiculous take, but I've watched them because of Schiano's history with Ohio State and his history previously with Rutgers. They're a formidable team now. They're not a team that just gets walked all over anymore. And so with the way their schedule sets up, I would lock it in even to say that Rutgers gets 8 wins this year. I would lock that prediction in. That's how confident I am in the Scarlet Knights this year.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be world beaters, not going to be an Indy or anything. But
Yeah. Speaking of Nebraska, let's talk about Matt Rule's comment at Big
yeah,
Ten Media Day.
please.
He said that the and no disrespect to Big Ten Conference. We're Buckeye fans. Buckeyes have represented the Big Ten well for years. We're
Yes,
just.
sir.
But his comment was the Big Ten is the NFL of college football compared to the SEC. Like, how can you say that? If you look at let alone let's just talk about national championships. I mean,
Mm,
since 2000, I can name. Let's see, um, Oklahoma, Miami, Ohio State, USC, Texas. Um,
it's Clemson,
gosh,
man. Florida
Ohio,
State.
Florida State, Ohio State, Clemson, Michigan. That's 9 teams that have won out of the SEC conference that have won the national championship since 2000.
Right.
That's not just like it's the SEC and everybody else is just an anomaly at that point. So that is pure dominance. So
Yeah,
out of 24 tries, the SEC got it 15 times.
that's pretty dominant. And with multiple different teams in that conference too. We're talking LSU, Florida, Georgia, and Bama. I mean,
Don't forget
and Auburn.
Auburn
And
got one.
Auburn. Auburn too with Cam Newton. They have rotated. They're definitely a thicker and a deeper conference than any other conference in the nation. There's no denying it since the 2000s. We're not here to talk about history. Certainly, the Big Ten used to be the dominant conference from the 30s to the through the 70s, but there's no argument to be made in the 21st century who the dominant conference is. It's clearly the SEC. So,
Yeah.
what
I think that was like I think Matt Rule is just trying to make some noise. He's trying to
get a little
make his
attention,
team rally get a little attention. I
no
don't
doubt.
know I don't know how much weight he thinks that comment holds, but to
Yeah.
me it doesn't hold much weight at all. They're like literally we were talking about the SEC. I mean we were just talking about national championships.
Right.
15 out of 24 tries have been the SEC in the national championship. I mean
Sucks.
let's look at draft picks. Let's look at recruiting
Oh yeah.
classes. Who's always at the number
Oh
1 2
man.
spot? Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
just I mean let's look at those too. I mean the SEC is an NFL factory.
It is at every position. There's no question.
Yes, at every
Um,
position. I mean,
it's
just look at how many Georgia Bulldogs are on the
oh yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles. It's pretty much the Philadelphia Bulldogs at that point.
Yeah, no kidding, bro. Seriously, on that D line specifically. Sorry, my eyes are really itching right now. Um, yeah, no, it's interesting looking at all time first round draft picks. The tie is between Ohio State and USC, but they're going to be quickly surpassed by Alabama. Um, because this century, good lord, it's remarkable how many men Nick Saban has gotten drafted in that first round, and so I love looking at things from a historical perspective, but in a 21st century here and now perspective, there's no question, man. SEC dominance in every statistic in every category.
It just means more. The SEC. I'm not
You
trying to
know,
be obnoxious. I mean that's their slogan. That's their quote. They champion it as they should. I mean,
sure,
if the script was flipped and this it was the Big Ten, we'd champion that slogan and phrase as well. It just means more. The
no
Big
question,
Ten.
no
But that's just
question.
that's just not the case.
Well, yeah, man, and it really is something. I mean, I hate to keep dragging this up, but like there was a time when there were more people in the North than there were in the South. And when the Rust Belt went to all hell and shut down all the plants and the factories that connected with the auto industry, people had to find jobs and they moved back down to the South. And the talent in the football fields went with it. Minnesota has won 6 national titles, but obviously not one since the 40s. And they're not ever going to get one again. And the Big Ten was clearly done. Pittsburgh used to be a national power. They have 9 national titles, and they're never going to get one again.
Oh no, definitely not.
It's just, that was the steel capital of the world. And when those jobs dried up, they all went south. And so anyway, it's population shift had a lot to do with it, and the SEC is dominating now as a result of it, just like the Big Ten used to dominate when we had the greater population. And so it's just the reality of the factor. That's you go where the talent is, and that's why Ohio State had to start recruiting nationally if they wanted to continue to compete. And so I'm thankful for guys like Cooper who initiated that national search initially. Tressel kind of brought it back to Ohio. Urban and re-expanded it to national, and of course, Day is keeping it going with the national landscape.
I mean,
But
I think all teams are starting to follow that blueprint. I mean,
oh
even
yeah,
look at Michigan.
especially as regionality in college football completely disappears.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, you can. Ohio State's been going into Southern California and Texas for years now, and C.J. Stroud, our best quarterback possibly ever from SoCal. If USC was a power at that time, there's no question where he would have gone to play football.
Yeah.
It would have been SC, hands down. And so we benefited greatly from the Trojans being down. Now, our buddy Crawford brought up an interesting point earlier today in the group chat. USC makes college football a little more fun when they are good. And I agree with that point. They're easy to hate for multiple reasons. Um, and they're easy to recruit to for multiple reasons, mainly beaches and babes and Southern California weather.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of elite talent just in LA. And if they return to dominance, my gosh, would that be bad for the rest of the Big Ten? It'd put them on notice. Now, I don't think they're going to do that under Riley personally. I don't think he will ever figure out defense. He's got a new coordinator now. Good for him. I don't think it's going to work out because I don't think he cares about defense, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
In his 7 years at the helm, he's never had a top 25 defense ever. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Maybe I'll be wrong, but
Yeah.
what do you think about the Trojans entering the Big Ten and what they bring to the table, and what do you think they could potentially be? I know you said it's going to be between Ohio State and Oregon moving forward for the rest of the decade. Do the Trojans have a chance at slipping into that
I don't think they'll finish fifth in the Big Ten, so doesn't matter. I
in
mean,
in any year in this next decade?
well, not in this next decade. I thought we were talking about like next this upcoming season.
Oh yeah, no, I don't
I
expect them
don't
to
think
make
they'll
any
finish
noise this
fifth in
year.
the big. Yeah, I don't think they'll make any noise. It just matters how they do in recruiting. You know, does will Lincoln Riley adapt to the landscape of the Big Ten and what it takes to win? Or
I
here's the
mean,
thing, though.
I don't
Here's
think
the
so.
thing. What I have a thought. I have a thought. Or will the Ohio States, the Oregons, the USC's, the Washingtons, will they make other teams flip the script and have to change their team's landscape to keep up with the high powered offenses? You get what I'm saying?
It's going to be an interesting because it's a blending of styles. It really is. It could shift that way.
And
I
especially
would,
like look at look at Oregon and Ohio State. I mean, their
yeah,
offenses are going to be
yeah,
like scary good.
ridiculously good, insanely good for years to come. And and that's wild because Dan Lanning is a defensive coordinator previously, at Georgia, and he still has these scary offenses. And it's a dangerous combination. I My personal thought is that the Big Ten quarterbacks are going to start to be elevated because it has to with Oregon and USC joining the conference. They are going to continue to get elite quarterbacks, just like Ohio State is. And when Urban came in, it shifted the narrative and it raised the talent level pool. And uh, Big Ten games are traditionally won in the trenches, and I think that will continue for a while. But USC, Oregon, and Ohio State are trying to buck that trend and force you to get better secondaries and better, better quarterbacks in general as well to compete on the national scale. Now, Michigan proved to be the anomaly this season, but I think that was an anomaly. I don't. You can definitely win with the elite defense. You can definitely win with a power run game. You definitely can, but it's very rare and it's very uncommon. They did it in a very uncommon Michigan way, and hats off disgustingly to them. But that's not the way
That's
that
off to
modern college football
Harbaugh.
is played anymore.
I'm giving Harbaugh credit.
Yeah, Harbaugh, he's gone though, so thank goodness he's gone. And
Yeah,
we'll see what more continues and see
yeah,
what drop off they have. We both think the drop off is coming, but anyway, um, that's probably gonna wrap it up for tonight.
yep.
We apologize for for not getting the stream right. I don't know what was happening with the Wi-Fi. We had all set to go and set up well before time, and it didn't happen. So we'll be back next week with that new and improved Promise show, and we will see you. I'll see you tomorrow for another video, and then yeah, Big Ten Media is a wrap for 2024, which means practice is right around the corner. Can't wait for that. Fall camp is almost here, starting August 1st for the Buckeyes. Looking forward to it, man. We'll see you on the next one. We'll see you next week at 8:30, guys.
All right, later, man.
Later. Have a good night, brother.
Yeah.